Good morning. Welcome to the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living. I'm going to be reading the thought for the week, and you can join me as I get down at the bottom, where it's in the bold area. Bringing in the harvest takes work, takes intention, discipline, creativity, willingness, and anticipation of good and plenty. And I'm not talking about candy. This week, the message is being receptive, which places us in the mode of being keenly alert to possibilities, newness, and openness. Have you ever gotten an inner hunch or inkling of a what if with a question mark? These are desires of the heart. Unlike desires of the flesh, these desires are spawned from our inner intuition, from our indwelling, living, loving God self, the spirit that breathes life into our very breath. These sometimes subtle messages are ones we are to act upon. It takes courage to step out and perhaps even off the edge of our comfort zone. Yet it is in that edginess that we find, develop, and can bring forth new life. Life is always about changing, growing, dying, allowing, learning, and being. Being receptive to our inner heart's urges and following through with action places us in the seat of creativity where anything is possible. Setting an intention many times does not come with instructions. However, as we place our expectations out into the creative field of endless possibilities, this infinite cosmic field devises ways and means to bring about a demonstration, which in the end may not look exactly as we had pictured. Usually it's better than we could imagine. Yet placing our order in the cosmic kitchen gets the ball rolling. Think about how many things in your life you've accomplished when at the beginning you would have shirked from it. I remember many years ago when my husband joined Toastmasters and I thought he was crazy. Little did I know, a few short years later, I would say yes to an invitation to come to an inaugural meeting of a new club and end up being its president. Say with me, I am open to listening to the desires of my heart and following through with action. My comfort zone is portable, expandable, and goes wherever I am. How good is that? And it is so. So, how is your harvest going? We've been reaping this whole month of our harvest. And are you able to look around at your life, at your situation, at the people in your life, and see what you've planted and what you're reaping? All of those things are a reflection of what we have planted in our consciousness, in our awareness, and on the activities that we do. I think one of the first things that we need to recognize when we are doing our sowing and our planting is to know what our values are, to be in that energy of awareness of what am I valuing in life, and is that what I am going to be receiving? If I value compassion, if I value kindness, am I giving that? Am I doing it so that I, in return, may harvest that myself? I trust that most of you are following your values, the ones that are in your heart. And I had an opportunity this last week to give a little demonstration to my granddaughter, Alpine, who happens to be with us today. Hi. She was gluing lots of little things inside a box, and they were various sizes. And I said to her, you know, Alpine, it's a good idea if you start with the big things first. You start by putting the big things in first. And I said, see, look here. And I had picked up a cylinder of drinking bottle that was there. I said, if I'm going to put rocks in here and sand in here, what should I put in first? And she said, put the rocks in first. I said, that's right. The rocks should go in first, and then the sand can trickle down in between it. And I said, why, that's important. You put the important things in first in your life, Adeline, and then one of the very first important things you want to put in your life is talking to God, first thing in the morning. She was very pleased that the song that we sing, This Is the Day, as we open up our service, she sings that in her preschool every morning, so she knows that. She goes to a Christian preschool. And so we want to recognize that we are putting our values first things first, knowing that that the little things, the mundane things, as what Roy Eugene Davis, I love to read him, the mundane activities that we do in life come along secondarily, and that we are placing the first priorities first, which is centering ourselves in this attitude and desire and expectation of allowing the divine to have its way with us. I keep continuing to enjoy the book that we're reading, Deep and Simple, Bo Lotsoff's book, and the chapter, I think we're just coming up to it now in the class, was going to be communion and community. And communion is our inner discussion, dialogue, waiting on, worship with this interior of our divine self, that communion with our inner self. And then the community is how we reach out to others in our experience. So today we're talking about being receptive, being open. One of the most familiar and used quotes from Ernest Holmes is being open at the top, allowing ourselves to experience newness of life. It's one of the most desirous things as an infinite being that we can allow ourselves to play with. It's important to have an open mind, an inquisitive mind, to know that I don't know all the answers, and that I'd like to find out from others what their thoughts are. But when we go back to our values, and I think this has been handed down from generation to generation from any number of wisdom teachings, whether they be the scripture, our Bible that we have, and all the others, they have two major main things that they teach. The first two commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Love God, number one. And the second one, love your neighbor as yourself. Those two commandments, those two values, to me, are what we are grounded on. When we ground ourselves in that communion of feeling and knowing and being in that one energy of the divine, the God self that is within us and all around us, then we are able to be open to allowing our hearing and our anticipation of what is God's will for me, to have it be open. And then we can reach out to others in the community and give of ourselves. We need to be open and receptive, though, to what is this infinite being that we are, what does it want to do? As I said in the Thought for the Week, it amazed me how I actually became a Toastmaster, because when I went to the first meeting as a guest, when my husband was going to Toastmasters, and I would sit there, and these people, they had this activity called Table Topics, where they give you a word for the day, and then they'd call on you, and you'd have to stand up, and I think it was 1 or 2 minutes. I don't remember how long it was. It wasn't more than 2 minutes, I'm sure. That you had to use a sentence with that word in it and make some sort of sense out of what story you were telling, or just spontaneously coming up with something. And I just thought, I was horrified. I thought, my gosh, I don't know why these people would choose to even want to do this. And then it was about 2 years, I don't know, within 2 years, I was going to church, Wendy Craig Purcell's church down in Mission Valley, Unity Church. And one of the gals that attended the church, she and I went to junior high school together, Julie French. She had been married, now she's Julie Roy. But I always admired Julie because she was one of those smart kids, you know, how all the kids were in those smart, classes. And Julie came up to me and she asked me if I wouldn't attend the first meeting of this Toastmasters group that they were just starting. And if she had not asked me, I would have blown it off. I said, no way, I'm not going to do that. But with her asking me, it enticed me a little bit. I thought, okay, I'll go and see what it's like. That room had, and I am not kidding you, the most impactful most amazing people that I have ever been associated with in my life, before or after. I mean, the number, and there were I'd say there were probably about 20, 25 people in this room, and every one of them was just a high energy, wonderful individual. And so all of this energy was building and building, and they said, okay, you're going to have to make a decision right now. Stand up if you're going to be a charter member of today's Toastmasters, because we made up the name and everything. And I just got caught up in all of this, like wanting to be with these type of folks, and just stood right up. And I thought, what have I done? and then lo and behold, little by little, I became the president. I won speech contests, evaluation contests. That was stepping out of my comfort zone, big time. But it was generated, I believe, from this inner nudge within me, and it was orchestrated beautifully by Spirit, because Julie was there to lead and guide me, and I trusted her. And so what we're talking about today is those same type of things in your own life. What is it that you have this little nudge coming up? You don't even know it's there, honestly, but that there's something different, something unique that you feel called to bring yourself into its fold. One of the first things is to stay connected to our higher self. And then we can listen and hear and be susceptible and available to the language of Spirit that it's teaching us, that it's telling us. It's very subtle. David R. Hawkins said, out of an unrestricted love for God arises the willingness to surrender all motives except to serve God completely. To be the servant of God becomes one's goal rather than enlightenment. To be the servant of God, to allow this God self that is breathing our breath, beating our hearts, to allow its will to lead and guide us. Think about that for a moment. Do you have that as a value? To be so close to God, so loving to God, that you want to be his ambassador, its ambassador, her ambassador, whatever pronoun you want to use. To surrender all motives except to serve God completely. And be prepared to step out of your comfort zone when you make that vow. Again, I'm going to reiterate Galatians 5:22. But the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, self-control. There is no law against these. Let us therefore live in the Spirit and surrender to the Spirit. To feel that energy within us and to step forward. We need to be aware, though. We need to anticipate and be aware that this God self is going to lead us into green pastures. It's going to give us whatever it is that we have need of. And when we do, when we are attuned to serving that God self within, we do reap the rewards of all of those things that I talked about, joy and peace. Those are ours. That's what happens in our life when we surrender that egoic mind that says, I'm separate, I've got to claw and scratch, I've got to do it all on my own, I need this, I need that. Let it be. Recognize the difference between that voice and the inner one that is prompting you to go forth into newness, into a new territory. Before I close this morning, I want to say thank you very much, because last week we gave some really nice, beautiful, high energy to the Padres, and they've been providing some really fun energy and things with their playing their ball game, and the ball game I think is probably starting around now. if we're going to be having any more fun with the Padres in the balance of this season, we need to give them additional energy. We need to give them a boost of recognition of knowing that they are playing their very best. So would you please bow your heads with me and open our hearts to knowing that the Padres are playing this game with their highest and best efforts being brought forward, that we are ever so grateful for their skill and abilities to have fun and continue on playing their full potential. For this we are ever so grateful, and it is so. Thank you, God. Do you remember what one of the slogans is of the Padres? It's been around for years and years. We're the Padres. Do you know what our slogan is? Believe. Absolutely. And I want you to transfer that not just to the Padres and not just to a game, a ball game in life, but believe in yourself. Believe in this infinite, eternal being that you are. When I gave my first talk at the Toastmasters group, it's called the Icebreaker. And it's a 3-minute talk. And they time you. And they give you the green light, and if you're getting close, to the end, they give you a yellow light. And then when our time's up, it's red light. And you don't want to go past your time. And so I had memorized my speech because it was so tight on time. I wanted to put all this stuff in there. I mean, how do you tell your life story in 3 minutes, for Pete's sake? So I had memorized it, so I knew exactly what I was going to do and say. And then at the end, I started singing my song that I sing. And Adeline has asked me to sing this song a few times, too. She goes, sing the Rainbow Song. And it's my calling card, I guess. And as I didn't know it at the time, but as I started singing that song, the yellow light was on. And the guy that was doing the lights was one of the seasoned Toastmasters. And I finished, and the red light had not come on. I finished within my time. But he said, I couldn't believe that. You started singing a song with the yellow light on, and you made it. And so I wanted to just close this morning with reminding you of this song. I'm always finding rainbows, knowing good comes my way. My dreams can always be fulfilled as I love each day. Some fellows look and find the bluebird. I always look and find the sun. Some fellows make a winning sometimes. I always know my good will come. Believe me, I'm always finding rainbows, knowing God's ever-present goodness is mine. Go out and have a fabulous day. Namaste.